This is Chuck. Thanks for watching. I picked about 4 pounds of jalapeno peppers this morning out of the garden, and I wanted to go ahead and pickle them while they're still fresh. It's a pretty easy process, and it's not a time-consuming process. So let me go ahead and show you what we did, and thanks a whole bunch for watching. We'll have a pretty simple ingredient deck for this project, including jalapenos, vinegar, water, garlic, candied salt, and pickling crisp. I will use a 21-quart canner and plan on using 6-pint jars. I'll keep the already sanitized jars partially filled with water and simmering, as well as the lids and rings in a saucepan while I prepare the jalapenos and the brine. When canning jalapenos, I like to trim the stems and tips and then slice the peppers into rings. I prefer to pickle my jalapenos with seeds. However, I know that's a personal preference. If you do not want seeds, you may want to consider cutting the peppers into strips instead of rings. The seeds are more easier to dispose of that way. Only 2 of the jalapeno peppers I picked were red. I'll slice these into rings and add a couple to each jar just for color. I also picked 2 serrano peppers. I've cut these into strips and I'll add these to the jars for just a little extra punch. Once I've diced 4 cloves of garlic, I'll add 6 cups of vinegar and 2 cups of water to a 6-quart pot. This will be the basis for our brine. After the garlic is added, I'll add 3 tablespoons of canning salt into the brine. Oh well, a little more won't hurt. With our pint jar still simmering, I'll bring the brine up to a boil, stirring pretty much constantly. And once that's brought to a boil, I'll turn the heat down and we'll commence the canning process. Because I'm old and slow, I only like to take 1 jar out at a time to work with. That way I know they're staying hot while I'm working with them and then putting them back into the canner. When possible, I like to use a funnel when adding product or brine to my jars. I will pack the jalapenos several times as I fill each jar. A firm pack can reduce the number of jars that's needed, as well as the amount of brine that is required. I think it's also more aesthetically appealing to look at a complete, tightly packed jar. Being a little sloppy, I also like to use the funnel when I fill the jars with the brine. I will fill the jar and want to leave about a ½ inch for headspace at the top. This silicone bubble popper is a great tool for going along the inside of the jar to try and free up loose air and have it rise to the surface. This particular tool also doubles as a measuring device to make sure that my headspace is at the correct distance. A metal knife or other tool is not recommended for this function. I think an 1/8 of a teaspoon of pickle crisp in each jar really enhances the crunch. I need to take special attention to be sure that I thoroughly wipe the rim of the jar. I want to make sure there's absolutely no loose sediments or anything that can prevent a complete seal. I'll use my magnetic lid lifter to get the seal out of the saucepan where it's been simmering for the last 15 minutes or so, and then I'll retrieve the ring to tighten it down. I only need to tighten this finger tight. I do not need to scrunch it hard or anything like that. I'll use the bottle lifter to return it to the rack in the canner. From here, I'll repeat the process until I've run out of jalapenos. Turns out I was spot on when I projected I would need 6 pints to take care of all 4 pounds of jalapenos. I will lower the filled jars into the canner, making sure I have at least 1 inch of water over the cans. I'll bring to a hard rolling boil for at least 10 minutes. I typically let the boil run a few minutes extra, so after about 12 minutes on this one, I turn off the heat, remove the cover, and we'll let it cool down for 5 or 10 minutes. After about 10 minutes, we'll remove the jars from the water bath onto towels on the counter, never directly on the counter. We'll let them cool down overnight, and tomorrow we'll give them the pop test. In the morning, we'll remove the rings and depress the top of each jar. If it does not pop back, then the seal is good. Hi, I'm Chuck. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate it. Like I said, the process for canning jalapenos is not complicated, it's not difficult, and it's certainly not time consuming. And after you're done pickling them, the jars are good for about a year on the shelf. Not that they'll last that long at all. Hey, listen, thanks a whole bunch again. Thanks for the thumbs up, and have a terrific day out there.